Hey there, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're doing another video using the Simon Says Stamp August card kit called Picnic Parade. We're doing some fabulous, quick, clean, and simple rainbow inspired cards. And of course we are using some of those gorgeous little clouds to create a whimsical set of cards that are super easy to create. Most of this is done in real time, so you guys can check out how fast it is to make this set of cards. So we're going to begin with my first rainbow set. We're going to be using the Simon Says Stamp Hello Sunshine 6x8, and we're going to use that solid line. Then we're also going to be using one of the larger sentiments. You're going to need 6 colors of Distress Oxides, and we're going to begin with that purple. I am using the larger of the Misties just because I wanted to be able to slide my cardstock up and down instead of moving my acrylic block. I found that this was a little bit easier than trying to put this line onto an acrylic block and then keeping it straight and having the perfect amount of ink, because I sometimes find when you have a solid stamp, you do not get enough ink and you need to restamp it, and it makes it quite difficult. So just thought we would use the mini Misty, and you can check out how I shifted. So I'm doing my blue. I'm going to lift it. I'm going to bring in my little baby wipe and clean off the stamp just to give it a couple seconds to dry up. And then you can see, because that Distress Oxide kind of stamp my pad on the back, you can see where we need to slide it down. And at some point we will run out of space and we will have to turn or flip the cardstock around. And I had a little bit of a mistake, a little bit of overlap, so just got to be sure that you line up those edges of the 2 rectangles on the edge. We're going to move on to Scattered Straw, which is our yellow for this rainbow color. And so when you're making a set of cards, be sure to select colors that you can use within the same cards, and then you will see how cool they coordinate with each other, even though they look completely different. We're going to do some pink, and then we are going to lift it one more time. I'm going to line up those lines, and we're going to bring in our red, which is Festive Berries. Instead of using magnets, I decided to use some Scotch tape just because I wanted to really hold down. So there we have it. It's ready to go. I'm going to do some heat embossing on the Been There Sun That, which is such a fun and festive, summery sentiment. It can really be for any occasion. And we're going to stamp it down. I like to hold it for just a couple seconds and really allow that cardstock to absorb the ink. And be sure that your ink that you just stamped, those Distress Oxides or Simon, whatever you decide to use for your rainbow, that is completely dry, so your embossing powder does not hold on to that. I'm going to bring in my Wagner gun, and I'm loving that sunshine already coming through. Been there, done that, right? And be sure that you don't hold your gun for too long on that embossing powder, or it will overcook it and you'll lose the super shiny part of the heat embossing. All right, so for the next card, I really wanted to use those fun little clouds, and I wanted to make an encouraging card, not too festive, just not knowing, what we might be using it for. We're going to be using Distress Oxide and Salty Ocean and the brand new Speckled Egg and some masking tape. So this is not paper craft masking tape. This is literally the purple stuff that you use to paint. So be sure that you touch that onto your skin, get some of those natural oils on it so it doesn't stick onto your cardstock and tear up as you lift it. So that's one of the tips that you can use if you're using masking tape that's not specifically made for paper. And I like using it, one, because it's a lot more cost efficient. Two, it really does stick to the cardstock, especially when you're doing some masking techniques. So we're going to bring in both of those Distress Oxides. We're going to bring in 2 of the clouds that are included in the kit, and we're going to ink them up. So we are going to stagger the inking. I'm going to start with that Speckled Egg, and it's just a really pretty color, and Distress Oxides or Distress Ink. So I have Distress Oxide in the bottom, Distress Ink in the top, and I feel like the Distress Ink is a little more blotchy than the Oxide, but I'm really just quite happy with the look that we're going to do here. So again, we're going to stagger them. Totally fine to overlap. So I don't clean up my stamp, I'm going to bring it down to the bottom and overlap that. And so essentially you're going to create a pattern. And if you run out of space or you find that you've overlapped too much, I feel that you can't go wrong, because we have mask those edges, and it's gonna give it a really clean look. And so that's a really cool part about using repetitive patterns and overlapping and staggering, that if you feel that it's just too much, the masking does really just clean the whole thing up. I'm really loving the whole slimline card collections going on right now, but I don't have slim dies. And so I wanted to create a faux look of slimline cards without really having to do it and doing it on an 8x2, right? So that is the purpose of my pattern here. And I'm loving how bright this blue is. And you can do different blues, lighter blues, whatever you are created to inspire, however you're inspired to create. So we're going to finish this up. And I want to say, as I'm finishing this up, that all the products are linked below. So I remove that masking and see how cool and clean that looks. Then I have that Sunny Days Ahead heat embossed in black onto a piece of cardstock. And I love keeping my scraps because then I can just reuse them, especially for little strips of sentiments. I'm going to bring in some diamond unicorn sickles, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to follow the pattern or the shape of the cloud, and so it does look embellished. It looks cute, but it's not overly festive, just because we never know when we're going to need, you know, an encouragement card or even a sympathy card that is not overly floral. And I feel that sympathy cards can be very floral. So just kind of, this is the silver lining, I suppose, in the encouragement card. I'm pretty happy with this card, and we're going to set it aside. We're moving on to super clean and simple. I saw this idea of staggering those hearts on a rainbow pattern in a simple stamped love you. So we're going to use that heart from the stamp set, and we're going to use the love you in black ink. So we're going to bring in our products. What are we using? Again, 8 colors of Distress Oxides. We're going to use the heart and the love you. So we're going to begin with 1 sheet of the Nina 110 pound cardstock, or your Simon Stamp White 120 pound cardstock, whatever you decide, and the 120 pound cardstock is included in the kit. We're going to begin with that fossilized amber, and I'm going to ink it up. And these are Distress Oxides, so they will react with water if you choose to splatter them a little bit with water and give them a distress look. So I'm going to clean that up. I'm going to bring in my next color. And so my thought process is, if we put that yellow being the center, is that then we can line up all the other colors on the left and on the right and get this nice little line. I'm not too worried about getting a crooked line because I'm lining up the 2 half circle edges of the heart. And then once you get it going, it goes really fast. So this is a great way to do some mass-produced cards that are really nice, clean, and simple. And honestly, all you have to do is change the sentiment if you wanted to say something different. So moving on to that broken china, and I am loving the look of these hearts being staggered and getting those color mixes together. Move on to Wilted Violet. I'm going to stamp at the end, and I am making sure that I have a full stamp full of ink so I don't have to come back and try to fix it later on. We're going to move on to the Marmalade, which is just a gorgeous orange, and we're going to stamp over on the left of the card. And there's not a huge color variation, but you can tell it's from yellow to orange. And last but not least, we are going to bring in the red. And if you wanted to add a pink in between that orange, you are totally welcome. And so by starting at the center of your rainbow, it kind of really allows you to line up your card. And if you find that you're off center, which is what I did, I'm going to go ahead and trim that edge and just kind of clean it up. Last but not least, we're stamping that I love you in intense black from Simon Says, of course, down the bottom. And if you feel to use a different sentiment, please do. Just going to hold it for a couple seconds, and then we're done. And there we have it. Super easy, super clean, and I am loving it. Next, we are using Play On patterns. I love all the patterns included in the 6x8's Hello Sunshine stamp set. So for this card, I'm not going to use any of the cutesy parts of this kit. I'm using that sunshine and the sentiment and some distress oxide on pumice stone and fossilized amber. So I have 2 pieces of cardstock, and as you can see, this cardstock is kind of stained, so you know what, we're going to still use it. So I'm going to bring in that yellow distress and I'm going to ink up my stamp. And so I love using stuff that I spilled on or that I have cut to create other items. So this is going to serve kind of like the main focal point of the card, and I love, again, play on patterns. So you're really going to be able to see how this 3 colors, the gray, the yellow, and the black, are going to create something very clean, very simple, and very elegant that I thought, you know, would be apt to send to anybody. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in my paper trimmer if I can get this off the table, and I'm going to trim it up. I kind of fought the trimmer today. It was just not wanting to cut for me, or maybe it was me lifting the wrong way. Whatever it was, I kept doing this the wrong way. So I'm going to turn it around and cut as close as I can to the edge. See, it's fighting me. It doesn't want to do it. I'm going to trim the little edge on the other side. And so we keep turning clockwise to remove the excess of cardstock. And we're going to do it one more time. And then fight to pick up the excess. And so I found that I had a little bit of that white kind of showing off on that right side of my Sunburst, and we are ready to go. So I have that A2 size card. Again, this is the Simon Says stamp, white, 120 pounds, ready to go. We're going to bring in the Sunburst at half sun, and I'm going to try to position this going to be off to the right of where I'm going to place the yellow. And we're going to bring in that black, and this black kind of polka dotty pattern. I've been staring at it for the week, and I'm really wondering what I could do with it. And I'm like, you know what? We're going to play on patterns. So I'm really loving this color combo. And I felt I needed to add a little more, one more Sunburst to kind of finish that pattern. If any patterns, all right? Just play on patterns. And we're going to stamp that down. And I don't want to take away from the polka dots. I do not want to take away from the clean and simple, but I still want it to look finished. And so as you can see, those two ended up lining the edges of my Sunburst. I added foam adhesive on the back so that way it gets raised. And then I have the You Are Something sentiment heat embossed with white. I've added foam adhesive to the back of that, and then I'm going to bring my scissors and trim that. And again, I love using other pieces of cardstock that I've had used previously for this type of thing. And so you are the bright spot in my day, and I love the spots and I love the bright, and I think that it just really makes it look super cool. Then I added some embellishments, and guys, that does it for me today. I am loving this card kit. I hope you go get your hands on it, because once they're sold out, they're sold out. If it gets sold out, you still can get the stamp set. I will link all the products below, and you can kind of put the components of the kit together individually. It'll be a lot more expensive. So I hope you go get your kit, go get the stamp set, and don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. If you have any questions, type them down below and I will reply and answer your questions. Click on the next video. Have an amazing day.